Let's now go to the phones now and welcome into the show a guy that when he was last on this show was just getting ready to embark on his first big tour of America, a tour that by every measure went exceedingly well, just coming back from Europe and getting ready to start another run of U.S. touring coming up a little bit later on in the summer. Blackie Lawless joins us now live on Trunk Nation. Blackie, how are you, man? How you feeling?
Yeah, I think it's safe to say I've been better. But
well, I mean,
we'll survive.
Let's jump right in on that. If you can, give the audience an update on your health, because it was well reported that while you were in Europe, where you just got back, you had to sit for some of the shows. What's going on with you, man? What's ailing you? Is it a back thing?
Well, what happened, this all goes back to this past Monday was my 10-year anniversary from when I broke my right femur. And it's a long, complicated story, but what's been going on with my back is a direct reflection of what happened with that femur being broken, because I wore a lift for 9 years, and come to find out I did not need that lift, and that was only determined last summer, so the lift was taken out. But the spine had adjusted to me walking with that lift. And when we took it out, then that's when the problems started. And it actually started at the beginning of the U.S. tour. And I was able to get through the U.S. tour okay, and we thought it had settled into place. But when we got to Europe, we quickly discovered about 2 weeks into the tour that was not the case. And what was happening is that the vertebrae were compressing some of the discs. I ended up rupturing a disc, and then that starts leaching out a gelatin that then wraps itself around the nerves coming out of the spinal cord, and that then creates a thing called nerve pain. And I don't know if people understand what that is, because I had heard of it, but I had never experienced it before. And it is pain that you cannot imagine. It is unlike anything you've ever experienced before. And to say that it's, well, let's put it this way. When I had to go to Berlin 4 times to get treatments, I received 8 epidurals throughout the tour. And that was the only way I was getting through it, because the pain is literally off the charts. And the doctors there told me, said, this pain can become so intense, people commit suicide from it, and I can see why people would do that, because it's, like I said, the first time I had to go in, you have to go into a surgical center, because it's not something that can be done in a regular doctor's office. So we were in a hospital in Berlin, and so they take me into the surgical room, or the operating room, and he told me, he says, now I'm going to inject this needle, or insert this needle into you, and I'm going to touch your spinal cord with it. He says, I want you to get ready for this. Now, I didn't know what that meant until he did it. And when he did it, I don't know I really don't have accurate words to describe what that feels like. The closest way I can explain it is it felt like an explosion, like a bomb went off inside my legs. And he says, I'm going to have to do this one more time. And Eddie, I swear to you, I grabbed the table with both hands. I mean, it's like I said, I mean, you see these movies about mafia and things like that, or, whatever, they're pulling guys' fingernails off with pliers.
Yeah.
No, you don't need that. You just show somebody a needle, they give up their kids. Yeah, I'm here to tell you, there's nothing like it. I mean, it's just, you cannot fathom it unless you've been through it. So anyway, they were able to keep me running, but they were afraid that I was going to do further damage. So the deal was, halfway during the tour, that I would pull back about 50% of the movement that I was doing, but it started getting worse and worse, and we got to Zurich about 2.5 weeks ago, and something happened during the show, and I knew something wasn't right, and that's when we went to sitting after that. But we got home on this past Saturday, and I went straight to the doctor's office then, and they looked at me, and we said, okay, let's do new pictures. So we did new pictures on this past Monday. I have a thing, and they determine this in Berlin, it's called mechanical compression. And what that means is you get vertebrae that start pushing against each other, but they grind against each other at the same time. and because they start to cramp. Well, when we were doing the show in Zurich, it was cramping really bad, and I couldn't get it to stop. And I was literally hanging on to Elvis while I was trying to sing and play at the same time. And so we did the new pictures on Monday, and I have a cracked vertebrae now in my spine. So, but as bad as that sounds, it's not the first time it happened. It happened the first time in '92 on the Crimson Idol tour. I got a little too close to the stage, to the edge of the stage one night, and some of the fans pulled me off the stage into the audience, and I ended up upside down in the crowd, and they fell on top of me, and I broke a vertebrae then. So this is the second time I've been through this. So it'll heal on its own. I start therapy tomorrow. It's a swimming pool thing that I have to do to start first. But they say they're going to have me up to speed in 8 weeks to start the tour, so I'll be ready to go.
August 4th is the first date of the next leg, San Luis Obispo, California. So, yeah, you're looking at you're right around that point, about 10 weeks.
We don't have a lot of time to waste, but, it's just, the doctors in Berlin, they were fantastic. I mean, they take care of the German Olympic team there, and the medicine there is really, really advanced, too. So, and I can't thank those guys enough for what they did, because honestly, there is no chance, no way I would have been able to finish that tour unless they did what they did. But like I said, this is all part of what happened 10 years ago, and it's just been a further continuation. So, we're hoping to get it fixed now once and for all.
I know, being a very visual and active performer on stage, that sitting down was not your preference, and I know you made the best of it.
Well, it was my pride, number one. Yeah. It's like, I've never done that before, and I had the strangest sensation because I didn't know what to expect. And I sat down, and I swear to you, I felt like I was playing in somebody's living room. I mean, it was the most bizarre thing, but, the audience couldn't have been kinder to me, and just, we did 5 shows like that, and they were really understanding, and you find out how much they care about you in a situation like that, and to be honest with you, it's pretty gratifying. So if you get past the pride factor, and just absorb it, then you find out how real it is.
I mean, of course, we all hope that you're well and good enough to do this, but if you got to the point where some other complication became, or you weren't going to be able to stand, would you do this next leg of U.S. dates sitting again, or would you then postpone it? I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
It's hard for me to be me sitting. I mean, Blackie Lawless is a combination of, I'm part Zorro, I'm part Dracula, part Ali, part Elvis. You take all 4 of them guys and put them together, that's who Blackie Lawless is. He can't really do that sitting. That would be a question I would have to or a bridge I'd have to cross when I got there. But I've got 4 different specialists working on me right now. One of them, matter of fact, one of the orthopedists, he works for the U.S. Olympic team. They all agree that they will have me up to speed come August, so I'm keeping a good thought and believing that's what it's going to be.
And, I don't need to tell you this, but that's nothing to mess around with. I have a producer, my producer for this show, who has not been with me now for 3 weeks, who is in his 30s, had something happen with a disc in his back which cut off nerves, and he has been dealing with nerve recovery and was in the hospital for a week and is still not back with me. And he's a young guy, and the back can be a tricky thing because it can impact so many other things in your body when something goes out of whack beyond just the obvious pain.
Well, let me tell you how they explained it to me in Berlin. They said that think of your nerve system in your body that comes out of your spinal cord like the wiring in a house. That wiring is there constantly, and it's always on. Now, you don't use all of it. Like, if you turn on your TV, you use part of it. You turn on your microwave, you use part of it there. So you only use it when you need it. Well, what the nervous system in the body does, let's say you're walking along and you stub your toe, and it hurts, but what the toe is doing at that point is it's opening up just enough nerves to tell you how bad it is. And then it kind of quiets down and it goes back to normal. What the spinal cord is it's on 10 constantly, but you don't know it because it's there to do a specific thing, and you don't feel it until something happens that really it translates into the rest of the body. Right. And that's what happens when the nerves that come out of the spinal cord, they look like strands of spaghetti that come out of the actual spinal cord itself. And when that fluid comes out of the disc, it wraps itself around those spinal cord nerves. Well, it's like a toxin. The two of, and it's the body's way of telling you something's wrong. And when that toxin or when that gel wraps around the nerves, it then inflames those nerves, and then it unleashes it on 10 throughout the body. And like I said, there aren't words to describe what this feels like. We did the last show before we went to Berlin. We were in Antwerp, and we came off stage about 10:30, and it was completely off the charts. And for 14 hours till noon the next day, it's like, if you would have given me bullets, I would have bitten them in half. And needless to say, when we go on tour, we take a small pharmacy with us. We've got antibiotics, we've got all kinds of stuff because, when you get out there, you have to be prepared to be on your own.
Yeah.
And I drink very little and I don't take drugs. But there were things that were helping me get through that night. And to be perfectly honest with you, they weren't even phasing that pain. And it was one of the longest nights of my life. And
well, listen,
it's something you would not wish on your worst enemy.
We're all pulling for you and hope that it's not a factor and you can get it behind you and you can do these dates standing and without an issue.
What they did in Berlin has helped considerably.
Yeah.
But what I did was continue to push through that tour when they told me to go home. And I said, no, I don't want to do that. This thing has been 3 years in the making. It's been like every other band. We all went through COVID. Those things got booked and canceled and booked and canceled 3 times. We went through that. And I said, come hell or high water, I'm finishing this tour. And they really didn't want me to, but the compromise was, okay, I'll cut back my movement on stage, but it really wasn't enough. And then when I started cramping in Zurich, that's when it cracked.
Let me ask you about the U.S. dates that you have done already, because that was the last time you were on leading into that. And you talk about it had been 3 years since you went to Europe, which I know you tour more for years. You toured more regularly than here in the U.S. The U.S. run that you've already done, that was the first time in about 10 years you did a U.S. run.
Actually,
what were your
12.
feeling? 12 years. Now that because we talked to you before that, now that you did that, and you have another one again kicking off on August 4th, which we'll talk about here in a second. But what were your feelings now coming off of that run? Because you had resisted the U.S. for a long time, and by every measure, the audience-wise and turnout-wise, it was super successful. So what are your thoughts in retrospect about the first U.S. run?
We didn't know what to expect when we went out. We saw that ticket sales are doing well. But you really don't know what you're going to get when you get there. And I guess the best way to say it is when we got to the last 2 weeks of that U.S. run, none of us, and I mean none of us, wanted it to stop. It was probably the greatest experience I've had since the very first tour we did in '84. And that's saying a lot. I don't think it could have been better. Just to see people's reactions and to get back out there again. I wasn't sure I was ever going to see America again. And to have this come around full circle the way it has been, just the greatest blessing. I couldn't say enough about it. I mean, it's been absolutely fantastic. And we were in fear before we started that the reaction from the audiences, even though we could see that the tickets were selling, we weren't sure exactly how they were going to respond. They went absolutely insane at these shows. And there would be times at the end of the shows, I'd get ready to say goodnight at the end, and I would have to scream so loud through the PA to get over the top of their volume. And it's been a long time since I've experienced something like that. And I can't say enough about it. It's been fantastic.
So I have to ask you about this because it's an issue that I'm very outspoken about, because me as a rock fan, it's something that I'm not down with, but I got to bring it up to you, just being honest. One of the things that came out of those shows of people seeing you in America for the first time in a while, there was more than one person that called into this show, said, hey, something's going on with the vocal here. Is Blackie actually really singing? And then there was a clip that was surfaced online in a meet and greet where you admitted to singing to a track. Can you provide some clarity as to exactly what is and isn't live in a WASP show and your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. When we do these, well, let me back up a little bit. About 10, 12 years ago, we did the Crimson Idol the first time in its entirety with orchestration. Now, prior to that, we had just done, I call it the Live at Leeds version, because if you look at what The Who did with the Live at Leeds, which we all thought was live at the time, and we now realize there are overdubs on those as well, like most live records, we would take the bare bones approach to doing it. Well, we decided to take, an approach where we tried to make it sound exactly like the record. And we had never used orchestration or anything like that. So we went in the studio, we took all the tracks off the record as far as the orchestration. We took the background vocal tracks, we took doubles on leads, we did everything. And we took it and we tried to make it sound as much like the record as we could. I stood in the middle of the room that first night in rehearsal, and I swear to you, it was like an out-of-body experience. I had never heard anything sound like that before. I'd never played with a live orchestra before. And so this was the closest thing you would get to doing something like that. And so I came to the conclusion, because, listen, I understand both sides of the argument on it. I don't, for me personally, when I'm up there, I'm singing my ass off. But what's wrong with having enhancement to make something sound exactly like the record? Because you're not going to get a band like Queen or any other band that does big productions like that. 4 guys cannot go out there and reproduce that record. It's impossible. It won't happen. So do you want it to sound like the record, or do you want it to be just a general live performance? And that's a question of taste. So if you're going to start making records where you have a lot of orchestration and things like that going on, it is impossible to make it sound like that record unless you have that. And you could also make the argument, which has been going on Broadway for the last 20 years. The Musicians Union has been fighting this fiercely, but technology rolls on and it's not going to stop. Where they no longer have live music in Broadway productions. And the Musicians Union has had a fit over that. Well, even before that happened, when you had keyboards introduced that had entire, orchestras in them, you've got one guy now replacing 120 different people. So where do you draw the line?
Well,
like I said, I understand if somebody wants a true organic experience. But from my perspective, I looked at it and I said, once I heard it sound exactly like the record, I thought, I cannot go back to this again. I mentioned The Who a second ago, the Live at Leeds approach. The Who used tapes for years until they started hiring all these other guys to go out with them. But even still, a lot of the keyboard stuff won't get fooled again, things like that. That's all on tape.
Yeah, well, I think... my feeling about it, and I am in the just being brutally honest, I am in the school of feeling that it should be live, and I do want it live, and I do want it raw, and I don't think it should sound like the record, and it doesn't have to, but that's my feelings about it. But
I think raw is the key there.
Yeah, but I think, Blackie, I think the problem is where, and I've said many times, because I get misquoted on my position on this all the time, I have no issue with the keyboard part. I have no issue with if you've got an orchestra in a song, I don't expect people to carry a friggin' orchestra. And you bring up Queen as an example. And interestingly, Queen, when they toured the last time, actually put out a video of them doing with the supporting musicians doing all the backing vocals in a dressing room to show that they were real. So it's not just me, but even the artist community very divided on this, because there are a lot of people. And again, I don't have any issue with a part or an intro or orchestration part, but it's gone to the point now where, you can see what's happening with Motley Crue. Mick Mars alleging Nikki Sixx didn't play bass for the last 5 years on Motley Crue tours. Who's singing, who's not singing. And if it gets to the point where technology goes to that level, then, I always joke with the audience, well, I can't sing or play anything, but I'll start a band and I'll stand up there at a microphone or with a guitar, because there's bands out there that are doing that. It's that, I hear about it all the time on festivals, bands following another band, and they're like, the entire show was a Pro Tools rig. So it's like, I think there's a line. There's a line.
My own personal taste is I don't want to see that. And especially for somebody, and you don't
want to see me do a band. I'll tell you that right now, man.
Well,
you don't want to see me on stage.
I use this example a lot. I went to see B.B. King about 10, 11 years ago, something. He was 81, and he was sitting. I saw him at the Kodak Theater here in L.A., in Hollywood. I was right in front of him, literally in front of him, and he was less than 10 feet away from me. And he was sitting, and he told the audience, he goes, hey, I'm 81 years old. I got to sit. It was funny. But I listened to him sing, and I could hear the volume of him coming out off the stage. I could hear him acoustically louder where I was sitting than what was coming out of the PA. And I thought to myself, watching him, I thought, that's what I want to be when I grow up. Now, when I go out on that stage, I take a lot of pride in this gift that God's given me. And I like to show it off. I'll just be flat out honest with you. But I think people want to see that, or they want to hear it. So I don't think there's anything wrong with it. If you got a guitar player that, is really, really good, people are going there to see that. But again, when I went into rehearsals that one night, and I heard what it sounded like when it sounded like the record, I thought, I can never go back. I mean, like I said, it was a flat-out, out-of-body experience.
So what percentage?
Different approaches.
Yeah, so one final point on this, because I want to ask you a few other things, and I'm going to run out of time. What percentage, if people go to see you live and WASP live and these shows coming up, roughly what percentage are they hearing canned versus you actually doing live, or the band actually doing live? Because the other part about this that I always warn the audience when they jump on bands about this, and again, I'm not going to lie, I'm absolutely it's a soapbox issue for me personally, but one of the things I always caution the audience about is like, hey, you got to be careful, because sometimes these musicians have an extra person or two on the stage, and that's totally cool, helping out, playing something, singing something. Sometimes the drummer's a great singer and you're not seeing there's a mic swung around to him. Sometimes the guitar player's a great singer and he's up there helping out. So, sometimes people get wrong reads on this too, just based off of what, just looking at the lead singer and not looking at the whole package. But what percentage when you play live is live versus what you're pre-recording?
You mean for my lead vocals?
The whole thing, yeah. I mean, is it beyond the lead vocals?
For my lead vocals, I mean, I would encourage people to go. We did 5 shows where I was sitting. Go look at those last couple. You're going to hear it loud and clear. Because when we were in Sofia, I cracked a couple of times, which I normally don't do. But it was getting towards the end of the tour. And, I mean, it wasn't anything catastrophic. But for me, I don't normally crack. But it happens. But it's part of the live experience. But, when we start doing the choruses and things like that, myself, Mike Duda, and Doug Blair, we're all out there singing, but we're using backups behind that too, because when we did it in the studio, we were using 3 and 4, tracks at a time to create that. You cannot make those choruses sound huge like that with just, individual vocals doing or creating that, because when you do it in the studio, you double and triple tracks. I mentioned Queen a while ago. They were using 24 tracks of vocals to create those sounds. You cannot create those chorus sounds by 2 or 3 guys doing that. It is impossible. And to be honest, if they're showing themselves singing backstage, that's wonderful. But unless there's 20 guys in that room doing that, it ain't gonna sound like that.
There were about 8.
What they're doing.
There weren't 20, but there were about 8.
Well, but you understand what I'm saying. If you're doing 24 tracks of vocals to create that chorus effect, a handful of guys cannot do that, even with electronic doublers. And then you could get into that argument. Okay, you're using, mechanical effects to enhance one guy out there. I mean, where do we draw the line with this now?
Well, that's exactly my point. Where do we draw the line? Because again, there is a line, and I think, and I can't speak for you and what's going on with your band, and I've not had a chance yet to see your show, but that's exactly it to me. It's exactly that. There is a line, and there's a lot that are going over the line, Blackie. In the pop world, forget it. The ship has sailed. In the pop world, I saw that woman Dua Lipa drop her microphone. She dropped it for 2 minutes. She couldn't find it on the floor. She's fishing around for it. Her lead vocal's just blasting out of the PA. There's people who spent $3,000 to hear this woman sing, and when she found the microphone, they all applauded. And I'm like, you just spent $3,000. You're listening to it.
Let me tell
someone
you
not sing at all.
If you can do that, that's talent, buddy.
Well, she looks really good too, so there's that.
Well, I mean, one of my neighbors here, she, everybody, I ain't gonna say who she is, but she had a residency in Vegas a couple of years ago, and she wasn't singing any of it. But the argument was she's out there doing dance routines all the time, and I kind of get it. I mean, nobody can run around and do that. I mean, if I'm not going to go to a show like that, so I guess I can't really comment. But like I said, I cite B.B. King. I wanted to hear B.B., and I got to hear B.B. So if you're going to come see us, if you want to hear me, you're going to get to hear me. So if we embellish it, in other parts of the song, I think it's just making it better.
Well, listen, man, I'll say this in closing on this topic because we could debate it till the cows come home, but I'll say this one thing. Whether I agree or disagree with what is or isn't going on, I appreciate the artists like yourself who are at least honest and transparent enough to say it and talk about it, because there's a ton that are not, and that are doing it, and are oh no, man, we're sounding, that's what we sound like now. And I see it all the time. There's bands I've been given tours of their Pro Tools rig under the stage by certain people on their crew, and it's like the whole thing is a friggin' track.
I don't agree with that. If you're out there supposed to be playing, I think you're probably supposed to be playing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not what I want to see, especially if somebody, but, and I was going to say if they're a great musician, but I think great musicians are not going to do that. Again, if you take pride in what you do, you're going to want to show it off. I'm sorry. When we realize from an early age we have this thing that other people don't, that's where you get to be a show-off. So it's like, and there's times, allow me to be brutally honest with you. When we get to the end of the idol, I do this thing where I hold a note at the end of the song. And depending on, how my wind is that night, it'll range anywhere from 30 to 45 seconds. That's a long time to hold a note. And when I'm holding it, a lot of times in my head, I can hear it coming out of the PA, and I think to myself, this sounds pretty cool. To be able to stand there and hear that thing coming out of you, that's pretty special.
And that's what, as from a fan perspective, which is all I am, that's what I live for, and that's why I think this is such a slippery slope, because I live for those moments, and that's the whole reason I go to see a band live. I'm not
going to argue with you over that, because when you're saying guys, if they're doing whole shows on Pro Tools, I can certainly see that argument. But then again, like I said, if you got virtuoso musicians, I think their pride factor is going to be such where they're not going to do that.
Hey, before I run out of time, let's talk about this next run that's coming up. So, as we mentioned, and this one is this one's, I think, maybe I don't know for a fact, a little more extensive even than the first leg. And there's some big buildings in here. Hammerstein Ballroom in New York City, which I've been to, is a big building. I mean, this is definitely an impressive second run. It kicks off August 4th. San Luis Obispo, California, and it runs for a while here in the U.S. Armored Saint, once again, in support. Right now, your last date listed on the website looks like it's September in Dallas. Or no, I'm sorry, in L.A., wrapping up in your home there, September 16th at the Palladium. So it's a good run. Armored Saint again in support. Do you plan to change anything on this leg versus the first U.S. leg, show-wise, set-list-wise, or is it pretty much going to be the same thing, given that these are new cities?
We're going to add a little bit to it, but when we say new cities, we looked at the dates and we said, okay, about 75% of the shows that we're doing on this run are places we've not been to yet. You know, we didn't do any of the Northwest. We didn't do any of Canada. You know, so if you look at them, like I said, the vast majority have not seen this. But there are places like New York, Chicago, L.A. that have seen it. You know, so we thought, what do we do? So when I called in a second ago, you know, they put me on hold, and you guys were playing "Sleeping in the Fire." Now, we have not played that song in well over 10 years. We're going to add another encore to the show where it's a 3-song medley, and we're going to start. Maybe I'm getting premature here, but we believe that "Sleeping in the Fire" will be the first song of that new encore.
Nice, nice. And I know there was a lot of talk when we went into that first tour where a lot of people were wondering if you were going to play Animal. And I know it was represented, but talk about like your approach to doing that and if you're going to continue doing it that way. Well,
you know, when you're 20 years old and you write a song like Animal, that's kind of self-explanatory. But when you turn 50 or 60, it takes on a different meaning. And right. So can you still make that statement as you get older? And I thought, okay, how do we portray this now? And then I thought about it for a while, and I thought, well, you know what? This song caused a heck of a stink when it first came out. Why don't we focus it around that? And that's exactly what we've done. So when we go off for the encore, and then while we're still off stage, what you hear is the Senate hearing committee coming to order. You hear Al Gore talking, you hear Frank Zappa talking, John Denver, Dee Snider, and then we start the song after that. But what it does is it brings people up to speed, because we realize that there's a lot of the audience that are here now that weren't around when these was happening. And there's a key phrase. I mean, when you see the dialogue that's written on the screen, it's walking you through everything that was happening. And it says basically censorship anywhere is censorship everywhere. And that's really the way, you know, we're portraying it. And it's kind of a little educational, you know, a 3-minute educational clip to bring people up to speed that didn't live through it the first time, and to let them know that it still is a valid thing today. Because I didn't know at the time it was happening that when Frank Zappa was involved, Frank had experienced that in the early 60s, before Beatlemania and things like that. And so he had already seen that monster once before, and he was the perfect spokesman to be the patriarch for all of us, because it's really what he was, you know, to run point on all of it. And so, you know, he did a fantastic job doing that. But again, I think that this subject, it's never going to go away, and I think it's a good idea to revisit, you know, the principles of it from time to time, to educate people that, yes, that happened then, and it's not an antiquated idea. It's happening again today, whether it's, you know, I mean, Elon Musk bought Twitter because of this, supposedly.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, it's like lots of guys, you go to Arlington Cemetery, lots of guys died for this First Amendment, you know, and it's not designed to protect popular speech. It's designed to protect unpopular speech. You know, so I don't care what anybody says. You got the right to say it. I trust in the people that are my fellow Americans, that they're going to be smart enough. If you got somebody spewing neo-Nazi propaganda, he should have the right to say that. But I trust in my fellow Americans to believe that the vast majority of us will not adhere and subscribe to that. You got to trust the people around you.
I couldn't agree with you more on all that. And I'll tell you this, the thing, and I'm curious about this from the first run you did in America, because, again, it had been, like you said, 12 years since a full U.S. tour. But you talk about educating people and you talk about giving people the history. Now, somebody like myself, I've been there since day one with you and WASP. That's when I started in the business as well, 40 years. But, and I know you're celebrating that on your own tour, but I'm sure that you're seeing and have seen a lot of people in your audience on the run you just did that are seeing the band for the first time, and maybe their parents are bringing them, or maybe they, I'm imagining you saw a pretty wide demographic of age of people coming to those shows, and many seeing you for the first time.
Absolutely. And you have to take that into consideration. So, Rod Smallwood and I mean, we had long conversations before we put this tour together of what it was going to look like and how we were going to portray it. So when we advertised it as going back to the beginning, which we have, but was it going to be the same way we did it in 1984? Could we do that again? Could I stand there and do the blood and the meat and all that stuff again and then turn around and do part of the Crimson Idol? No, I cannot. So the way we did it is we were doing it with film. But when people come to these shows, something we've been able to capture, and we weren't even sure how we were doing it. We just heard it night after night after night. What we were able to capture on this tour is there is a feeling of what was happening in the early 80s in L.A. at the time. And people who lived through it said, you know what, thank you for doing this. It feels like that. But for the people who didn't get to experience it, they're getting to see it firsthand of what it felt like for the very first time. And like I said, we've tapped into something on it that I would love to sit here and tell you that we designed from the get-go, but there was a lot of luck involved doing it. But whatever it is, it's created a synergy, and everybody's feeling it. And it is very, very cool to be on this wave.
Everybody find your date for the next run of WASP dates. Again, it starts August 4th and goes for a while here in the U.S. WASPnation.com is the website to get all your information, your VIPs, your tickets, your info, your dates, all of that. And Blackie, I'm going to let you go because I actually have a pair of tickets with a full VIP for a listener to the city of their choice that I'm going to give away right now before I run out of time. Cool. And I know this includes meet and greet and all sorts of cool perks in it, which we appreciate. So it's always good to catch up with you, man. It's always good to talk to you. And most importantly, above and beyond everything here, best of health to you. And I hope you get this behind you and you feel better.
No, we're going to be good with that. But, I want to say something real quick, Ed, about those meet and greets. I'd never done anything like that before. And to be honest with you, we've done it now probably 70, 80 times between the U.S. and Europe. It's been one of the greatest experiences of my life. I have gotten to meet these people in controlled situations, not chaotic like when you meet people on the street. And it becomes very conversational. I learn as much from them as they learn from me. I listen to them very closely. It's like little mini market surveys. And to be able to hear them tell me the things they've been feeling or wanting to ask for the longest time, like I said, it has absolutely been one of the greatest experiences of my life. I don't know if we'll continue to do it again after this, but it'll be something, a memory I will take with me for the duration.
Very cool, man. That's good to hear. Take care of yourself. The best of health to you, Blackie, and keep in touch.
Now. And I hope to see you when soon. We're out there.
Yeah, I'm looking at the dates. I'm all over the map myself, but I definitely want to come see you.
All right, bud. You take care.
All right, man. See you.
All right, see you now. Bye.
Bye-bye. Blackie Lawless, everybody. Checking in and shooting straight. And nothing more than you can ask than that, right? Let's do this. AJ, so there's a bunch of people on hold that wanted to call into the show. We're not going to have time to take those calls, so we're going to have to clear them. So let's get rid of everybody on hold. I'm sorry for those of you that were holding to get through, but we're just simply going to be out of time here to really get into anything on the phones. Tomorrow, the entire show will be your calls, of course, after we do some news, as usual, at the top. So we'll finish off with a free-for-all. If you want to talk about anything in the world of rock or anything maybe you just heard in that interview or didn't hear in that interview, tomorrow's your day. Get ready on the phone starting at 3 o'clock Eastern. But let's clear these phones out, and if you are on hold, please hang up or you will be hung up on, because we've got to open these phones up to new callers who you can then call in and attempt to win this ticket package that we're about to give away. And it's rare that we do giveaways here on this show. I'm glad that we are, and maybe this is a sign that we'll do more in the future. But obviously, we are a national broadcast here, broadcasting to all of America and Canada. So in order to do a ticket giveaway, it's a bit tricky because, depending upon where you're listening, there has to be a show for WASP. So what we have here is the opportunity for you and a guest to win a pair of VIP tickets to see WASP in a city near you. And I just talked about the fact that there are a bunch of dates starting in California and running through Washington State and Nebraska. I mean, there's all sorts of cities and stuff here. Illinois, Wisconsin, Michigan, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, New York City, Connecticut, on and on and on. Can't run them all down, but the bottom line is this. If there is a WASP show coming near you and you would like to win tickets to it, you can pick the city and the show of your choice right now, or the date that is closest to you, and let our call screener know, if you are the winner, which date you would like the tickets for. If you're willing to travel to that city, that's fine. The travel is not included. But just pick any WASP show on the schedule. If you want to see the list, waspnation.com, or maybe you know the band is playing in your backyard and you don't have tickets, this is your chance. So you tell us which show you want the tickets for. We're going to give them to you. You're going to get a pair of VIP tickets to see the band. We're going to give this to caller 20 right now. And again, our number is 844-686-5863. And here's all that you get. I got to run it down for you. You obviously get a couple tickets to get into the show, and no purchase necessary, must be a resident of the continental U.S. and at least 18 years of age, and no transportation is included in this prize package. So whatever city you pick, you got to get there on your own. If it's in your backyard, great. If it's not, you got to select a city you're willing to go to. Some of the VIP perks that come with this include a exclusive limited access personal photo with Blackie Lawless, 2 personal items signed by Blackie, no guitars or pick guards, but anything else is cool, a merch coupon for the WASP online store, a set of guitar picks included. You get to sit in on the Q&A with Blackie Lawless, which he just talked about, and a photo with Elvis, which is Blackie's huge mic stand, and his original Black Widow bass guitar. So this is a really cool prize pack. It includes a lot of stuff here, as I just ran down. Basically, meet and greet, Q&A, photo with the mic stand, merch, 2 tickets, the whole shebang. A great VIP prize pack. Again, you pick the city, and if you're calling, please be sure that there is a WASP date near you or one that you are willing to go to, because you are going to tell our call screener which city you want to attend. 844-686-5863, caller 20, courtesy of Live Nation, for the WASP VIP package that I just ran down. All the bells and whistles, merch, photos, signatures, Q&A, photo with Blackie, the whole 9 yards. So good luck on that. cool to be able to do that. And again, I appreciate Blackie coming on. I appreciate Blackie being transparent and taking the questions about the tracks thing. A lot of people would run from that. I think at the end of the day, it comes down to your personal taste. As I told Blackie, my taste is for a live, real rock show. His feeling is that he wants it to sound perfect and sound like the record. I maintain I don't think that's what a live rock show is supposed to be about. But what are you going to do? You could, bang your head against the wall 1,000 times. Sometimes people change. We've seen artists that feel the way Blackie does come back around. He explained what's going on, and nothing else he can say. I mean, what can you do? I give the guy credit for being transparent, and that's his view on it as a musician. I have my view on it as a fan, and we can agree to disagree, and discussion and discourse and debate is healthy and good, whether you agree or disagree. So again, thanks to Blackie, always a good conversation, and good to talk with him. Thank you for listening today, everybody. As always, you missed anything, it's on the SiriusXM app for you guys to check out on demand anytime you want. If you're listening live, there's a replay at night as well on 103 at midnight Eastern, 9 Pacific. I will catch you again live tomorrow, 3 o'clock Eastern time, to talk more rock with you. Anything you want on the phones. Free for All Friday heading into Memorial Weekend. Have a good Thursday.